Hello, I'm Somi Arian. I'm a tech philosopher, author, filmmaker, and the founder of Impeak. My guest on today's podcast is Alaina Percival. She's the CEO of Women Who Code, a global nonprofit dedicated to inspiring women to excel in technology careers. She has built this organization from the ground up to 300,000 members at this point. She's a super impressive and inspiring woman, and I'm so pleased that I got a chance to speak with her. Alaina, how did you get into coding, and what made you think, that you need to start creating an organization to bring more women into it?
Yeah, so I'm the co-founder of the nonprofit Women Who Code, and I meandered to get to this point. I started off my career more in traditional industries. So I was initially living in Germany, working for Puma at the start of my career, and while I did have some projects with the interactive team, which was building technology for the stores, like our custom shoe program and things like that. I was still very much in that traditional industry pathway, and I had a really strong career in that industry. And in 2010, I had the opportunity to move to San Francisco, and it was just one of those places where, if you get a chance to go, it was on my list of places to go. And when I got out there, I struggled. I wasn't coming from, Google or Microsoft or Facebook and, any of the big startups that were technology leaders at that time. And I said, I need to change my skill set. I started learning to code. And what happened is I just fell in love with spending time with smart women. It was just really exciting, and it was fun to find a community and be part of it and find that sense of belonging in the tech industry that my career hadn't given me up until that point. And then I realized, hey, actually, this fun thing that we're doing is actually important. So my career had taken me to one of the top technical recruiting organizations in the Bay Area as their head of developer outreach. And so I was getting to run the philanthropic arm and spending my time with CTOs, vice presidents of engineering, like funded founders, and all of the people who are getting placed within these organizations or into these roles. They were the people who were getting the multi-million, billion-dollar exits, and I saw that fewer than 5% of the people getting those jobs were women. And so I started learning from the people that I was interacting with on a daily basis. I started learning about what they were doing in their careers, what they were doing outside of their careers, how they were progressing, and started pulling that knowledge into the programming that Women Who Code was providing. And that's where our mission around empowering diverse women to excel in technology careers came about, because we need more women in leadership. We need more access to the top. We need companies designing for inclusion. And that's exactly what Women Who Code is focused on, helping you while you're in your career to achieve your greatest potential.
Why do you think we need more women? How come this was not something that people thought about, like say 20 years ago? Why do you think now we are realizing that we need women?
Yeah. So one, I think it's baby steps. I think years and years ago, maybe a little bit more than 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, when my mom was graduating from college, she was able to kind of pursue being a teacher, a nurse, or a secretary. So then just one generation later, they stood up with the first sort of feminist way women should be allowed to work. And now I'm standing on a platform saying women should be allowed to be viewed as leaders. So I think, or it is important for a couple of reasons. First, very basic numbers. When there's diversity at the executive level in the boardroom, companies perform at a higher return on investment. So there's a fiscal responsibility to have inclusion at the top of your organization. Right now, and I know the United States alone, 50,000 new leadership roles in technology are coming about over the next 5 years. So, and the current market is more than 1 million engineers shy of what its needs are, because every company is going through this technology evolution. And so if you ask any recruiter, you know, getting the talent you need is very difficult. It's a battle to get that. And so it's not a zero sum game. Like, we actually need more technologists. We need more technical leaders. And then when women are represented in leadership, when women earn more money, they return 90% of that into their families and their communities, creating a virtuous giving cycle. And so it's important for at the industry level, it's important at the company level, and then just at that global level.
I will tell you one other reason that I think why it's
Yeah.
important, and you can tell me what you think. Simply put, it's an experience of life. It's like it's another enhancement of human experience.
Mhm.
And by not being in those leadership positions, and not experiencing the beauty of developing technologies and designing technologies, women are missing out on one side of human experience.
Mhm.
And I think that's as important as a reason than anything else. I remember when I was growing up, I always thought that I wasn't good at math, and my parents didn't think I was good at math. My teachers didn't think I was good at it. And then later on, I actually discovered a love for math, many,
Mhm.
many years later, like even a few years ago. And I started teaching myself linear algebra, and then I started teaching myself Python, and I really fell in love with it. And I realized, and I was like, I felt like I was robbed of that experience growing up
Mhm.
because it was believed that women were not going to be good at it. You weren't encouraged. So
Yeah, and that's a nearly like ubiquitous experience that I hear over and over again from our community, and sometimes incredibly blatant. Of people tell me, "Oh, I was told girls aren't good at math," and very blatant. And then over and over, you hear women not being encouraged when they do show aptitude in math. And in my own personal experience, I'm I'm not a strong writer, and when I was a child, every single time I would do standardized tests, I was off the charts on math, and I was, like, very average on writing. And I was always encouraged, "Oh, go into writing, go into languages." And what if you just look at my natural skill set that I was bringing to the table, I had that exact same experience that you're speaking to. Of actually, I should have been encouraged in the area of my strength. And I see that replicating itself over and over again in the workforce, where again, it can be very blatant. I have a WWCode member who graduated with a master's in CS from Stanford. So about as validating of experience as you can have as a technologist, the top school, a master's degree. And when she went to go interview with a top technology company, they said, "Have you thought about marketing?" That that all of the young men or who were graduating alongside her with that same degree never heard that. I guarantee you that they heard, you seem to be able to talk about the product really well. Have we should be putting you on the promotion track, like we have to hire you. And so it derails you over and over again from your chosen path, from your prominent skill set. And so as we see and as we support more women into technology roles and leadership roles, it will help us to break down the biases that we have, that, you and I don't look like leaders, that, the leader that is in your mind, and goes to benefit and reinforce, the predominantly white male counterpart, actually, people who look very different, come from different socioeconomic, racial, gender backgrounds, have just as much potential, but they're facing more barriers as they're coming to take on those leadership roles.
And actually, in my case, because I was born and brought up in Tehran, in Iran, I actually ended up going into human sciences. That's what they call it. So I didn't go into math, and I would say probably one of the biggest regrets of my life is not pursuing math and physics, a lot earlier. And I then went into philosophy, and that was like my kind of alternative to. So I do have a very logical mind. I put that into philosophy, and of course, I'm also good at writing. I'm also like a creative. I would say actually I'm probably like bang in the middle, but I really loved. Actually, I loved physics, for example. I was so fascinated by physics. And if I could be born again in a different environment, I would want to be a physicist. This is like one of the biggest regrets of my life is not to be able to read a technical physics book and actually understand the math. So I read a lot of physics books that are written for the layperson that are not, mathematical. I find it really a shame that I can't, because now my life experience has taken me into a different path, and I've put my efforts into building a business now, and that's a different way. So one of my goals in the business that I'm building is I want to build a very successful business, and I want to be able to use the money that I make from that to supporting young women of all ages, really, especially young women who come from the kind of background that I do, and discover those people who have talent, especially in areas of math, physics, and science, and encourage them and help them and sponsor them to go through these educational path. But one thing that does come to my mind quite often is that why is it you think that a lot of women, when they create organizations like this, they create non-profits? Why non-profit? Because it sometimes it bothers me that it's almost expected that women should create non-profit organizations rather than for-profit organizations.
Yeah.
Because you think about people like Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, like they would take, or even Melinda Gates, they would often take their wealth and then they put it into a nonprofit as opposed to investing it into women, when considering how little women get funding. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you asked that question, because whenever people come to me for advice around starting a nonprofit, I ask them, do you really need to start a nonprofit? Could it be a B Corp? Could it be a mission-driven for-profit? Can you build something that you could eventually have acquired or IPO, that you can, build wealth and ownership for you and your employees? Having been at a nonprofit for 10 years, I would definitely not go the nonprofit route again. I think that unless your, from the beginning, primary approach is going to be fundraising through, government grants that only go to nonprofits, or something along those lines, it go for profit. I would say 90% of the funds that we receive are not received because of us being a nonprofit. And it also stops us from being able to take venture funds. So, if we want to do a data project where spending 3 years in improving our member experience, we can't go to Sequoia, we can't go to first round capital and ask them. And I've had investors say, hey, we love what you're doing, but there's no equity, and that's what we do.
So why did you choose that? And can you not change that? Is this your full-time gig? Like you're focused on this?
So this is absolutely my full time. I also teach women lead in technology at Georgia State University, and in my spare time, I'm a scout for Picos Capital, and which has a global approach, and a venture partner for Valor Ventures, which is just focused on Southeast investments. And I'm a full time mom as well. I have two young children. So I certainly have considered building out a for-profit arm, but our organization at this point is also, it's a volunteer-driven organization. We do many other things that are product-based that actually could be a for-profit company that some of the proceeds are going to support the nonprofit or something along those lines. We could structure it that way. But our core community product, we have over 600 volunteers around the world that are building technology education that we're able to provide free to our community of 320,000 technologists in 147 countries. That is, we've grown into our nonprofit.
Yeah, super interesting. Okay. Let's talk about children. So you said you have two children. How old are they? What boy, girl? What are you learning from? Yeah, first tell me, are they boy, girl?
Yeah, I have two boys, and they're both about to have birthdays, but they're currently 2 and 4.
Oh, that's sweet. Okay, so you don't have a girl. I was wondering whether you think boys and girls learn math differently. This has always been a question for me. I wonder if, because you know that experiments do show that when women do math, different parts of the brain is engaged. So I wonder if the way that we are teaching these technical skills and mathematical skills that it's designed for a male kind of mind and logic. What are your thoughts on that? I don't think there's enough research on it.
Yeah, I don't have any specific experience in that, but what I would say definitely exists is that that confirmation bias of going through your math learnings. Men are expected to be good at math, and girls are expected to not be good at math, and therefore that comes forward in the bias and the teaching process and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Confirmation bias is definitely so important, um, especially when it's drilled into your head since childhood. That's definitely something that really affects you believing in yourself to be able to actually do these things. I chose not to have children because I found it extremely difficult to build, for example, a business the way I want to build, and also have a family. Is this is this something that you think also affects women? Because a lot of times, by the time they come to the top of their career, the point where they're about to get these incredible opportunities, oftentimes that is when they go and have children, and then there's this gap, and then they find it harder to come back. So, what's your experience and observation been from working with women who are trying to succeed in technology in that regard?
Yeah. So I my personal experience is that it was very hard. I felt every single time I took parental leave that I kind of had to fight my way back and redesign what I can say yes to. I remember I used to think sometimes the monotonous stuff that was an add-on, like, yeah, I can take that on, was satisfying. Like, it's fun to do some things that, aren't strategic sometimes. And if someone else can do it and I don't have that extra, I can just continue working anymore. And so I had to really change what I could say yes to. I also think it's critical for us to focus on parental leave, not just maternity leave, because there are, more than one parent in most situations, or in whoever is, the non-birthing or the traditional concept of the mother. The other parent needs to be given space, whether it's adoptive or biological. That parent needs to also take on a large amount of the responsibility, and it starts with that parental leave. So you can imagine, if you give someone, the United States, a paltry 6 weeks off in many circumstances, or even just a year off, you're reaffirming that, hey, this is the person who's taking on the lion's share of the responsibility for caretaking, and that has ripple effects for the next 18 plus years in who's taking on the responsibility for the children. So it's really, in my opinion, critical for all parents to have leave. At Women Who Code, when we set out our leave plan, we made it equal for the birthing and non-birthing parent, whether it's adoption or birth, for all parents to have that parental leave.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. This is something that plays a lot on my mind. So before we had the current platform that I'm building is called InPeak. Before we were InPeak, we were FemPeak, and we were focusing initially on women, and then we decided to expand. And one of the reasons why we decided to expand is because there just weren't enough women interested in technology. It was so hard to get women to become interested in adopting new technologies. And one of the areas that we focus on a lot right now is the metaverse and Web3. Why do you think it's so hard to get women interested in technology?
So we don't have that problem. We have, well, certainly our organization called Women Who Code tends to be about 90% people who identify as women. We serve, over 300,000 members around the world. Certainly our target market is over 7 million, but we've reached it's just a niche audience. Maybe that's another difference, going back to the for-profit versus nonprofit, is, we're able to specifically have a niche target audience, but all genders are welcome at our events. And frankly, I like, you've changed your branding, especially the next generation. The word women doesn't resonate, doesn't feel like it's a fit. And so, at some point we might have to rethink our branding as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's why, it was just becoming so limiting to have that fem in the name. Whereas
Mhm.
with in peak, and now we are like, our slogan is in for inclusive, inspired,
Mhm.
in the know, in this together. And
Mhm.
we found it so hard. We got so much antagonism, around it. Some women didn't like it,
Mhm.
because they were like, it just feels like weird. I don't want to be in a women only thing. And then
Mhm.
men didn't like it because a lot of them, they equated it with feminism. So that was not the intention. So the only thing that I could think of doing was actually, changing the name and broadening the audience, and then making clear that it was open to everybody. This has been super interesting. So, you said that you have got about 300,000 women that over the last 10 years that you have been able to attract to the
Those
organization.
are our current members. So we, of
Okay.
course, over the years have served far more. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. That's an incredible achievement. So you have played a role in so many people's lives. How
Mhm.
does that feel?
It's incredible. And the individual stories is what drives me day after day. I just heard from someone who had received one of our scholarships a week ago, and her message was that, she was learning all of these things, which is, what you expect. But she said, I'm introducing other people to it. I found my voice. I found my place. I found advocacy through Women Who Code. And that resonated with me even far more than the career outcomes that that she was experiencing as a result of being part of it. But our one of my favorite stories to tell, because it's just like it's so spot on, is our Toronto director, when she stepped up with Women Who Code, was an individual contributor at her company. And I remember her messaging us in Slack that she had gotten promoted to lead about 6 months later. And then less than a year after she'd stepped up, she wrote to us and said, "Hey, Alaina, I've taken on a director role." And under 1 year, she climbed 2 rungs in the ladder. So this is a person who, smart, talented, had potential, was practicing leadership within Women Who Code for an entire year and just really accelerated her career. Probably what she would have achieved in 3 to 5 years, she achieved in under one. That sort of message is just what makes me so excited to hear from our community. And I have so many of them. I could just keep going.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So for people listening to this, what are you looking for now? Like, how can people support what you're doing?
Oh, so I invite everyone to go to womenwhocode.com. If you just enter your email, our membership is free. So you can come to our close to 2,000 free technical events, have access to our coding scholarships. And then if you are at a company that's hiring, we have a job board. Make sure that your company is posting on our job board. If you or your company has the capacity to donate, $27 enables us to provide an entire year of free programming. So those 2,000 events for our community, $27 enables us to provide that for our community. And what that means is every single time we can keep a woman on her technical career path, it increases her lifetime earnings by about $1.7 million. And that's about 1.7 million euro currently as well. So
I love the math. You're clearly
yeah.
a math girl.
Yeah.
I love it. I love how you put it into tangible numbers for us there. That's fascinating. So womenwhocode.com. You go
Mhm.
in there and there is a link where you can donate.
Mhm.
Awesome. And join the mailing list, all that stuff, right? Take it
Mhm.
from there. Awesome. Wow,
Mhm.
thank you so much. This has been fascinating. I honestly, I have to say, it's an honor to talk to you. You have done so much. I really admire and appreciate the hard work that you have put into bringing so many women into tech.
Thank you so much. And I hope everyone will consider joining Women Who Code's blockchain track community.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely going to be looking into that. All right. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Alaina Percival. Be sure to follow Women Who Code and check out their website if you can support their great work. The full interviews are also available on my YouTube channel, The Somi Arian Show.